Hey everyone, it's Tanja from Tanja Kraus Horsemanship, and I'm joining you live this afternoon with another Thoughts from My Walk. Today what I wanted to quickly touch base on is probably a little bit of an expansion on what we were talking about the other day in terms of what we practice is what happens. The way that we practice being is how we are with our horses. And what I noticed today, one of my experiences today was I went to a store that was you basically pay at the counter and you drive your car through the driveway and they load your vehicle while you're while you're waiting, and then you drive out. So it's a through driveway. And basically what happened was, and I know that we experience the same thing at the petrol station quite often, or in any case I do. I was sitting there, I'd been to the counter, there was another person at the counter. They went and got in their car probably, I don't know, a minute before I did. So I hopped in my car and I was waiting. And when the gentleman got into his car, he just sat there and I don't know what he was doing. He wasn't putting anything away. He was just sort of fussing about. And so I was waiting in my vehicle behind him. The guy had walked up the driveway already and was waiting to load my vehicle. There was a guy on a forklift waiting for both of our cars to get out of the way so he could bring the forklift in. And then there was more vehicles behind me waiting to get into the driveway. So this guy, mucked about for probably a couple of minutes, completely oblivious to the fact that he was holding up not only me, but all of these other people around, because he decided to get in his car and, have a look at this or have a look at that or whatever he decided to do. So, what it made me think, and I don't think there was any malice in it. Some people who do that are obviously just ignorant. They don't care whether you're waiting for them or whatever. I don't necessarily think he was aware of what he was doing and it was a conscious decision. I think he was completely oblivious. He was just in his own little world. He's bought his stuff from the shop. He's sitting there in his car. He's putting his seatbelt on. He's probably checking his phone. He might be checking his list to make sure he's gotten everything. Whatever it was that he was doing. And there was like 5 people waiting, just standing there waiting for at least a minute or two for him to get his car out of the way so everything could happen. So I just found it interesting, and the way that I translated then into our horses. Hey Simon, thanks for joining. The way that translates to our horses, I think, is two things jump to mind. And these thoughts are obviously thoughts that I've only had for a couple of minutes or whatever, so you're not going to get like a whole Monday Night Live on it. But the 2 things come to mind are, if you are oblivious when it comes to your horses, you're creating a safety issue. So, if you don't have the awareness of what's going on around you, that, that gate isn't tied properly and might swing open, and then horses might come in or cattle might come in, or maybe you hear the neighbour in the distance start his tractor and you don't really register, but you're on a young horse and the young horse might be worried about the tractor, or whatever it is in the situation. If you're oblivious to what's going on around you, then you're potentially causing safety concerns for both yourself and your horse. The second thing, if you're oblivious to what's going on, quite likely you're not paying attention to some of the body language that your horse might be trying to, or that your horse is doing, and you're oblivious to it, so you're not actually having a conversation or trying to read the horse's body language, and you might be missing cues which are telling you that the horse is trying to do what you're asking him to do, or that he doesn't understand, or that he's thinking about doing it, or whatever it is, or that he's learnt something, or that he is worried about something. So today's Thoughts from My Walk is basically not only we practice, I think we talk a lot about being present with our horses and making sure we're concentrating on what it is that we're doing, but in part of that is having a spatial awareness or an area awareness about what is going on around us. And I think that if we start to tap into that ability, then we can actually read potentially what's going on, or what could happen, what might happen from a safety perspective. Or, okay, my horse is trying to tell me something, or I've asked my horse to do something and something's happening in their body, so I'm aware of that and I'm going to respond. So that was my little thought, and I can see Simon's commenting. Or are oblivious, and I'm glad you're bringing it up. I'm glad that you're glad, because obviously I know Simon has a big cattle property, and he's probably, I know the guys go up there and do roping and things like that. And if you're oblivious to, what could happen in 3 or 4 moves ahead, that can be a really dangerous situation in terms of, cattle and, trying to move them and trying to separate them and trying to get them through gates and making sure you're not standing in between mum and baby if she's an aggressive mum or whatever it is. So I'm sure that Simon's seen it a million times before, where he's had to say, hey, you need to get out of there because that's about to happen, or that could happen, or etc., etc. So a little bit of an awareness about what we're doing, and a little bit of an awareness about just what's happening around us. And I think if we tap into that and practice it, and you can go ahead and practice it at the petrol station, because there's nothing more frustrating than sitting in your car, watching someone get in their car and then having to wait 5 minutes for them to leave the Bowser because they're too busy doing whatever it is that they're doing and not worrying that they're holding someone else up, instead of just pulling out and maybe parking off to the side if they have to do something. So practicing being present and being aware of what's going on around us. That's the topic of today's thoughts from my walk. Feel free to comment. I'm so glad that you're tuning in to my live. I hope you're all enjoying it, and I hope you're all having a wonderful Tuesday. I will talk to you all soon.